Hello, my name is Olivia Ray. I am currently with fourth grade students at Alloway Township Public Schools. They have a total of 44 fourth graders, so my teacher is their math and science teacher. So we have two classes where they will switch back and forth for math and science. So the unit they are on right now is energy, and I have been assigned to do the lesson on how is energy transferred by sound, light, and heat. They go through the lessons by section rather than the whole lesson all at once. So I've been assigned the introduction to cover as well as section 1, which just starts off a very generic overview of what energy transferred by sound, light, and heat are. So I will do a screen record of my lesson plan, and then I will come back to show you some of the demonstrations I'll be doing with my students. So this is my lesson plan. I am teaching a fourth grade science lesson. It is about how energy is transferred by sound, light, and heat, and the overall main idea is the transferring of energy. This particular lesson is the introductory lesson. So the content and performance outcomes are as follows. So at the conclusion of the lesson, the students will know that energy can be transferred by sound, light, and heat, and the definitions of energy: absorb, reflect, and vibrate. The students will be able to identify energy being transferred by either sound, light, or heat by participating in a whole class demonstration, and also complete a Google form on energy transfer and write a few sentences describing examples of them. This particular lesson applies to about 4 different standards, 2 science, and then 1 reading and 1 writing. So the first 2 are make observations to provide evidence that energy can be transferred from place to place by sound, light, heat, and electric currents. Obviously, it is just focusing on sound, light, and heat. And then also to apply scientific ideas to design, test, and refine a device that converts energy from one form to another. This will be demonstrated in the use of the Google form. Also, as seen in the Google form, they will have to write and read, so that it'll cover read with sufficient accuracy and fluency to support comprehension so they understand what is asking of them, and to write informative/explanatory text to examine and convey complex ideas. Here's some background knowledge that is needed to complete this lesson. They must know vocab words such as energy, absorb, reflect, vibrate. The teacher must also understand that energy can be transferred by sound, light, and heat, and understand how sound, light, heat are all examples of energy transfers. The Common Core focus is that students experience energy moving through sound, light, and heat every single day, so it's important for them to understand and acknowledge this natural phenomenon that occurs. There are reasons for how and why humans are able to survive and function on a daily basis through adapting on the basis of this scientific principle. Also, understanding how energy is transferred through sound, light, and heat will also just lead into the following topic, which is on electric currents. And finally, it will lead to studying of different energy resources and discover how to find environmentally friendly ways to obtain and use energy, such as use of solar panels. The academic language will include the vocab, language functions, identify, describe, examine, evaluate, analyze, and through class partner discussion, and we'll also write sentences and fill out the Google form. There is a significant role of the other adults in the classroom. So for example, the teacher aide will walk around and engage any students that seem unsure of the discussions and help redirect them back to the lesson. The aide and the teacher will assist students with IEPs and uphold modifications in 504s. And the cooperating teacher will also help maintain any behavior and to minimize distractions that may occur. The do now will have the teacher start off by leading a whole class discussion by using Google Jamboard and asking students how they would define heat, sound, and light. This is a great way for all students to see their peers' answers and to really get them thinking about what this lesson is going to be. Then the teacher will lead an introduction with examples of energy being transferred by sound, light, and heat, specifically using their TCI Bring Science Alive textbook, covering pages 134 and 135. For the teacher-guided practice, students will then be able to acknowledge how prevalent the transfer of energy is seen in sound, light, and heat and be able to create discussions. This is where the teacher will lead a few demonstrations, including the stretching out of rubber bands and strumming them and seeing the vibrations, to rub your hands together really fast and acknowledge that sensation, turning the lights on and off with a flashlight, and to hold ice cubes in a bag, watching the ice melt. making their hands cold. Then independently, students will be assigned a Google form to answer questions on energy transfer. There will be a total of 5 questions plus an optional bonus question. For the assessment and closure, the teacher will make observations of the students' responses and engagement while they interact with the examples of energy transfer. This is when the teacher will walk around and just watch what they're putting, what their answers are, such as on the Google Jamboard. After completing the Google form, the teacher will invite students to present their own examples and discuss their answers. For students that were unable to finish, they can work on it as homework and then be prepared to share the following day. And for those that don't want to share, the teacher will be able to look at their responses privately. For the summative assessment, the teacher will lead a group discussion, recapping important vocab words and having discussions with the students about everything they have learned and to invite any questions they may have. The materials are the textbook, rubber bands, flashlight, ice in a bag, laptops, Google Form, and Google Jamboard. To ensure access for all students with IEPs, 504s, or RELL, they will have additional support from the teacher aide in the classroom and have their modifications upheld. This can be seen in the Google form, as there will be a separate Google form with a modified questions and answers, more simplified to ensure that they can complete it at the best of their ability. To differentiate, there are a lot of discussion-based activities, which would allow students for all academic levels to engage, despite whatever their knowledge and comfort level are. Students with IEPs, 504s, or RELL, they will have their accommodations when completing the Google form. And they will also be able to work in a small group together with the guidance of the teacher aide, so if they are still struggling, they are not alone. All in all, this lesson was very successful. I would say I did seem to have run out of time. So in the future, I would either cut out a few activities or extend the lesson and cover 2 days, just so I can hear all the students' suggestions, questions, comments, and opinions, and to really take our time with the lesson. My introduction into my lesson, I am going to be using Google Jamboard. This is great to incorporate both remote students as well as in person, and to collaborate all at the same time to get them thinking about what the unit is going to be. So here they can create their own sticky note. They can write what is heat. They can say heat is hot. They can sign off their name and post it right here. They can move it, rearrange it wherever they want, and they will be able to see what their peers are thinking about. I included what is heat, what is light, and what is sound. They don't have to answer all of them unless they want to. They can answer one of them, 2 of them. And the best part about Google Jamboard is they can see what their peers are thinking. For my students to see some of these energy transfers of sound, light, and heat in person, I have come up with a few demonstrations for them to interact with. So one of them is going to be with ice cubes. I will bring completely frozen ice cubes. They were sitting in the bag a little too long. So my students will be able to hold them and to feel how cold the ice cubes are transferred to their hands. So you just hold it for a few seconds and then you let go and your hands are still cold. As well as the other way around, where if you keep the ice cubes in your hands for a really long time, the ice cubes will then start to melt. And again, that is the heat transferring from our hands onto the ice cube. Another demonstration I have is going to be with rubber bands. So when you pull them out, you can see how it's vibrating. And then if you bring them in closer, the pitches are going to change. And you can see it move. So that'll be with sound, as well as I will play a song for all the students to hear. They can use their speakers, or I'll play it through the computer. And when it plays, they will be able to hold onto the speaker and feel the vibrations coming from the song, from specifically the bass. So hear the vibrations directly from the song. Another one will be with the flashlight. So with light, we can turn off the lights in the room and see how the light is going to transfer to the darkness of the room and light up that area. And then, last demonstration will be with the hands. So they will be able to just simply use their hands and move them quickly back and forth. And after a while, the friction from the hands is going to transfer and create heat, which then makes our hands warm. So for the assessment to check what they have learned, I created a Google form, which is a review of everything we have gone over during the lesson. I created a version, and then I also created a B version, which I will show you in a second. So it's very basic, not long, not hard. Review of energy transfers without motion. I asked for their name. I start off with the true and false. Energy can only be transferred, not created. Required question. Another one is, what are the 3 types of energy transfers? They should select whichever ones they think, which we went over. I included this picture for them to refer to, so describe the energy transfer in this picture. I'm asking for a short answer text. And then I used another picture to help with this question. When you hear a guitar strum, the strings vibrate. This is to check their vocabulary. So what does vibrate mean? This is directly from the textbook. It's a multiple choice question. They can just click whichever one they think is correct. To incorporate some literature, I wrote a tiny little paragraph for them to read. And based on this text, I asked them to identify 3 ways that energy is being transferred. The story I wrote is similar to this picture, so to help, they have a visual to look at. And I'm looking for a few sentences right here. And then I included a bonus question. It is not a required question, but for those who want to expand on their thinking, I ask for them to think on their own personal experiences, their day-to-day life, or to come up with their own short story that I have written as the one above. And it's not required, so if students don't feel comfortable, but they're not forced to, but those who do, they're willing to show their creativity. I made